Hello class. I'm going to start here with a kind of a blank slate so we can see how to put together kind of a site model that you can take the slicer program and put together. All of you should by this point in time have gone to the slicer program and been able to download that. That will look like you should get this download here with the slicer in. And it should also show up here in your plugins. So either location, if this goes away, you can always come back up here to the plugins and open this up right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in. First thing is to get the site. So here I am looking at the Farnsworth House. So I typed that in. Actually, this particular project is so popular that we've been able to pull that up. So one of the things I'm going to do is here's a kind of drive that comes in. Here's the Farnsworth House you guys have been doing the renderings on. And then we have the kind of main road and, of course, the Fox River. So we are going to select a region. One of the things, don't want the model to get too big. So I'm going to want to make sure we get a little bit of the river. I'm going to probably pull, we don't need that tennis court. Get the parking area. And I'll probably come over here and just get the edge of the road. That way the model's kind of centralized in there. And we'll do a grab. And that's going to pop up in our model. So here we go with the model. So this is actually just showing the kind of flat site. We see a scale, our scale figure. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to have her go bye-bye. And we're going to come back here. We're also going to look at layers. So let's go to Window, Layers. So right now what we have shown is the snapshot. So I'm going to go to Google Terrain. And you see that it kind of shifted. So let me turn that off. Let's go back to Layer 0. Turn that off. One of the things I want to do is I want to unlock this, and I'm going to delete it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to also delete that layer, and we'll have the 0 layer and the Google Terrain. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to unlock this terrain, and then we're going to explode it. So now we've got a surface. This will be very helpful for you in a little bit. So now the next thing we want to do, we're going to stay on this layer 0. So we're going to kind of make a box area that as a kind of a base for the model. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lift it up, and I'm going to pull it down. One of the things I want to make sure that you do is, as you get this developed, one of the things is make sure you've got the box within the edges of the surface that you've downloaded. So I think that looks pretty good. So now what I want to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to intersect faces with model. So what you're going to see is now we've got an edge condition. So one of the first things we want to do is we'll pop the top, make sure we've got these edges cleaned up, and then we're going to also click on the surface and delete the outside edge. So now you should have a model, topo model, and now I'm going to, since I don't want the model to have too many slices that are just big squares, I'm going to thinning that out a little bit. So now we have the kind of base model that we'll be able to start to work through with the slicer. A couple things I'm going to do too is I'm going to quickly make this a group so that it's all tied together, and I'm going to move it so its origin is back to 0, 0. This is just more for kind of cleanup, but this should help with the process that we need to do next. So now we're jumping into the scaling part of the process. So you've seen here I just located a 100-foot line as a reference for the site. Also, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to move that to the 0 layer. So now I just have one layer that all this information is on, and I can close that out. So now the next thing for me to do is to scale this, so we're not cutting this up in increments so that we have thousands and thousands of slices if we want to actually make this to the actual size of the model. So in doing that, one of the things that we need to do is we're going to do this model at 3/32 to equal a foot. So some of the math here is that 3/32, of course, if we put it out to decimals, it would be 0.09375. If we scale that, we have a kind of on there the 100-foot marker. If we do that to 3/32, then we would take the 100 times the 0.09375, and we get a basically 9.375 inch or 9 3/8 inch line. So that'll be our check to make sure that we've scaled this correctly. That 100 feet equals basically 1,200 inches. So if we're trying to get this to the final size, we are going to divide by the length that it is now, the 1,200 inches, to get this decimal point. So the 0.078,125 is going to be an important number for us to scale this model. So let's go back to the model. We're going to highlight the model, and we're going to scale. So I'm just going to start it, and you'll see down here a number, and so you'll start typing 0.0078125, and you should have shrank this down to a 3/8 inch scale model. So we see here that this now is at 9 3/8, which is where we wanted it, and so now we know that the model is to scale. One of the things, once you do this, you can also relocate it, so we're back to the kind of 0 reference. Take it back to origin, and then we're going to do something that's very important. So as you can see, it's untitled, so we're going to save, and we're going to say site model 3/32. Oops. 3/32. So now that you've got the slicer downloaded, we can come up here and we can highlight this as we did, and we can start to look at how we want to do this. So the first one we're going to do is kind of in the Z-axis. I know some of you might be bug splatting, so we're going to, if this happens, we'll try to do this, see if we can find a scale that actually works for you. But right now we have a thickness of 1/8 inch that we want that the material is going to be cut out of. So if we also want those to be spaced the same, so that way each panel is sitting right on top of each other. So here I'll show you. So here's 1 inch. We're slicing it, adding references, which would be yes, which would be numbering system on there, and then we are also going to flatten. So if we do that and let it work, you can see here it is sliced. It has a spacing. So there's the material, and of course it's spaced as we had kind of identified. So here are the pieces that we would have to cut out of that, and of course figure out how to put the spacer in. Now if we undo and do this again, let's hit slicer. So instead of being 1 inch apart, let's make these 1/8. And let's see. Now it's saying adding outlines to adjacent spaces, so you could say yes or no. Usually that's helpful if you're cutting out and you want to reference to make sure that you've got the next level or next topo line where it's supposed to be located. So this is looking good. Oh, and we got bug splat. So it sounds like this might be a little bit of a problem with working with this program on these PCs. I've been able to do this with my on a different machine, so it must be something with the way these are configured. They do not like working that way. So what I'm going to do is, you can set it up, your model. What we're going to do is you're going to have them be, instead of at 1/8 inch spacing, we will do that with a 1/4 inch spacing. And okay, so we've got it back open again. Let's do it again. Just click here. So we know that the 1/8 inch is not going to make it very happy. So let's do 1/4. Say yes. So here, this one is done so you could see the different pieces. They also have the numbering associated with it. So, and this one didn't ask for the association because they are spaced. So you can see here, in this particular model, we're missing the in-between sizes. So if we had done it before, we'd actually have another one that would be out here, and then we would see the line where these line up. But since this looks like this is a bit of a problem for the SketchUp that we have on these computers, I'm going to say that this would be an acceptable model to turn in for this particular exercise. What we'll have to do is figure out how to make this kind of work for you in future model making. The other one I wanted to show you is if you want to do one that's an XY, and this is another variation. So if we actually did the spacing a little bit more, we're going to make the spacing 2 inches and the thickness of this, so that's 1, and it's going to bring up the y-axis, and we'll make the same thickness, but we're going to do the spacing, so we did the other one, we'll do that 4. And so this one, we'll break it out, and so this will end up being more like fins, and so as these fins kind of lay out, you'll see that these could lock in, and then we would actually be able to do a masking tape surface or another type of surface over that, which is much more uniform and a very attractive approach to making a site model. So you can see here, this is generated all the pieces. You can see their arrangement. So in this particular model, they've colored it the kind of pink and the green. And so from here, you would have all these pieces laid out that we could cut. You can see it's actually much more efficient use of material. But then you get a pretty rigid surface, and you can see, and then we would put masking tape and then a kind of a gesso cover. So this is an XY model. This one's also acceptable if you want to turn something like that in. So that's our exercise for slicer, and starting to develop a way to build three-dimensional sites for future models. And we'll see you in class.